get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. I'm your guys' host, SchuZ Schumaker. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal Thursday so far. But with that being said, I've got a very special guest kicking off the show with me today. He's a man with a 15-0 record, 11 KOs. He's also now ranked number 14 by the IBF in the super welterweight division. And he goes by the nickname One Way. That's Freudis Rojas Jr. Freddie, I appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
No, thank you for having me on. I'm super excited.
Absolutely. Well, first things first, man, I got to go through something about you. Your bio says God, family, and Yankees. I'm
hmm
very similar in a lot of the different aspects right there and what I like as well. So I have to ask for the first one, though. You put God first. Why is that the case for yourself?
Uh, you know, I grew up into, you could say, the religion with Christianity, with Christ, but I've
Right.
lost my way when I was 14 to 22 when I just came back to
Mm.
Christ. But Christ is a very big thing in my life. Without him, I'd be nowhere in this sport where I am now or anywhere I am in life with the things that he's blessed me with, according with even with life itself.
Mm.
Um, Yankees, a lot of influence from my dad and my father. My dad and I'm sorry, my uncle. They're big. They're Cuban, so in Cuba, wrestling, boxing, and baseball, the three biggest sports.
Right.
Funny story with that. I wanted to be a baseball player first before boxing, but my dad forced me into boxing. So there I am for that. If not, I think I would have became a baseball player for sure.
Okay.
And one way was that other question you asked me?
You also had and family in there. God, family, and Yankees from your bio.
Family, I'm a very big family oriented person. I love my family so much.
Right.
Um, I can't even explain the stuff that my parents or even my siblings have done for me, especially my parents spending so much money, even though we didn't have much growing up. And then my sisters, even though they eat food in front of me when I'm losing weight, I still love them. And, having my brother with me throughout thick and thin in tournaments and stuff like that. So for me, family is a very big thing. They've always been by my side. And I'm grateful to have you could say support a boxing family because not a lot of people have a family that supports them behind them. So I'm
Right.
very grateful for that.
All right, well, I want to go a little bit more in depth on all three of those different aspects. The first one being your faith aspect. You talked about the fact that you grew up in a religious household, but it didn't come until 22 years old or so. You said about when you actually kind of came back to Christ. You had your own relationship with Him, and now anybody that knows you, just look at your social media. You're very outspoken about it. Your free outfits when you walk out, everything about that. You always want to point people to Jesus. Walk us through just what happened. Why did you all of a sudden come back to Christ at 22?
Yeah. So how it first started, when I was 14, you know, kids and hanging around the wrong people in high school. I was a very quiet kid, but still hanging around the bad people, and
Mm.
them introducing me into like pornography and all that stuff like that. It went for downhill for that. And I struggled really bad going from 14 to 22 with that, or even drinking, being on the team and stuff like that. Having supposed to have this good image on being Team USA and all this stuff, but still living behind the scenes on these a horrible person in the back end.
Mm.
Um, it wasn't till I say I died. I know I
Mm.
died for sure. Because one night I was having a dream. Again, I say died, but it's like I went up. I could see my body. It was going up in the sky, and then while I was going up, I was saying, "Oh, I'm going to heaven." I died, but I'm going to heaven. I'm going to heaven. And then that thought started going in my head. It's like, am I? Am I
Mm.
truly going to heaven? Did I do enough to go? And already with that, you already know. Um, but then I heard a voice that I know for a fact it was Jesus talking to me, saying that like, you're not doing what you had to do, and you haven't been close to me for many years. I've been living such a uh, hypocrite life at that time. I'm such a lukewarm Christian at that time. I had one foot
Right.
in, but mostly more one foot out during those 14 to 22 years old. I
Mm-hmm.
put on social media that was following Christ, but behind closed doors, I wasn't doing anything, nowhere near that.
Mm.
Um, but then it's just when I heard that voice, it swooshed, and I woke up, and I was sweating very bad and crying. And I just remember I woke up praying, giving thanks to God for giving me another opportunity in this life that even though that I don't deserve. There's many times in my life I should have been dead for sure, but it
Mm.
still has me here for a purpose, even when it comes with boxing, because I prayed growing up because I hated
Right.
it. Like, get me out, get me out, get me out. But he has me here for a reason, and I know he's working through me with boxing to proclaim his word and spread his word out to the world.
All right, so the first part you talked about, you remember Team USA. We'll get into your amateur career very, very shortly here, but you talked about just the Team USA aspect, and you said that was obviously a difficult thing. You're representing the country, you're on the highest stage that every kid dreams of being a part of, and you're obviously going through a lot of stuff behind closed doors. It's not necessarily living out the life that you want to. You're put in tough predicaments. If you were to give advice, to the other guys that's now representing Team USA, a part of that, how would you have stayed, in a way, obviously still part of that team, but still stayed true to God in those situations?
How would it change a lot of things? I think they had on Team USA, they've had Bible studies and Bible camps and stuff that they had there for people who believed in Christ, or even they've had their own religion and stuff.
Right.
But if I was there, I'll recommend people and encourage, is the right word, to go to those classes. Even myself, if I could tell my 18-year-old self, 19, 20, go, surround yourself with people. Sometimes you might think your friends that you're surrounded by are not in the faith. You'll be like, oh, they're not going to push me. I'll bring them closer to Christ.
Mhm.
Correct. They're the ones that probably bring you more farther away from Christ than you bringing them close to Jesus.
Right.
But then that's where it goes where planting the seed is. But I will go just to start um, going to those classes and going to those group seminars and stuff like that. Just talk to people, surround yourself with people that have the same faith as you.
Absolutely. And then you talk about the fact, 22 years old rolls around, this dream occurs for yourself. And being in a very similar situation to that, and obviously with not the dream per se, but still having a miraculous event where Jesus kind of comes and saves you. Obviously, at that point, it's a lot of transformation, a lot of change where you go from, the IG bio, if you want to call it kind of Christian, where you talk about just, I'll put the cross, put a Bible verse, but now actually producing fruit, being a representation of Jesus in this world. How have you seen your life change the most? Like, is there one area of life that you'd say, that's the one I've really seen Jesus work in my life so far?
In myself or other people?
In yourself, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen myself as more of a happy person lately. I did suffer a lot with depression and
Mhm.
anxiety because I never thought I would have anxiety. I used to
Right.
play that off like people, oh, people have anxiety, they're just crazy. But no, I've changed a lot in that aspect, especially during fights. I get super nervous and stuff, which is a normal thing, but I let that always take over me and fill me with this fear. Like, what if I get knocked out? What if this? What if I lose? What if this happens?
Right.
Living with this butts and those fears in my heads. But God's put such a undescribable peace. You know,
Mm.
you hear so many Christians say it, or so many followers in Christ say it, but it's so true.
Right.
Um, I have such a big peace. There's even now in my life, there's chaos is going on left and right, but it's just like I have a good peace. Again,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean I'm gonna not feel sad and not go through it, but I have a peace with it, and I'm happy where I am in life because I know throughout the end of the suffering, there's something good coming out of it. Even if that
Right.
means if I die and I gotta go with Christ, that's even a bigger gift that I can have, you know?
Amen. All right. The other portion was the family aspect. And I know you talked about the baseball component that you probably wanted to go out there and pursue baseball right out the gate. But there also was another story. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe you also were part of the JV football. And at that time, your dad pulled you out of the field halfway through the game there. So
Yeah.
walk us through this. Obviously, your dad had a goal for yourself that you're going to be a boxer no matter what sport you wanted to do. Walk us through that story a little bit.
So I remember I was at school, I was a PE. I was trying wide receiver and everything. PE coach. He was a small town Fallon, Nevada. The PE coach, he was a coach
Right.
for the football team, and he's like, you know what, I want you to try out. I tried out, obviously for JV. I was a small kid. I was only friggin' like 101 pounds. But I was quick, and the coach was impressed. So, like I said, I made the JV team freshman year and everything. But I never told my dad.
Mm.
At that time, I used to tell my dad that I'm doing extra credit or tutoring at school, which he didn't even believe himself because he knew how much I wanted to get out of school all the time. But like I said, we lived such in a small town, and my dad knew everybody. So I had a suspicion a month, 2 months going by, we're all training for football. I stayed after school and stuff like that. And I'll still go home and work out with the boxing workouts with my dad, so he wouldn't be too suspicious.
Right.
But I remember we had the first game. We are there lined up, and I see by the corner of my helmet, just by my eye, I see just this Cuban dude, brown Cuban dude, walking into the field. I kid you not, it was the most embarrassing moment of my life. My dad grabbed me right here by the shoulder and took me off the field. He just took me in the car, man. I mean, And he let me have it. He said a lot of things that night and things that he don't want me to get hurt because of a boxing and stuff like that because it's the main priority. Um, but now at that moment I was so embarrassed and stuff because I remember I liked a girl at that time in school too. And when that happened and everything, but now that I'm older, I can look back and laugh at it. It's a good memory to have. And so my dad cracks jokes about it all the time. But that will never get out of my head, that story.
All right. So for yourself, obviously you were intrigued in playing other sports, whether that be baseball, football, whatever. But when did you start to say, okay, I know my dad wants me to do boxing, but I actually now enjoy the sport? When did that change happen for yourself?
That didn't change about till I was 14.
Okay.
Uh, Literally a little bit after the football. I mean, from basically the womb when I started training to 14 years old, I hated it with a passion.
Hmm.
But when I first made the team as a junior, 14 years old on Team USA, I was like, what the heck? They're giving me all these gear. They're giving me all these clothes. I'm traveling around the world. They're giving me money just
Right.
to do box. I'm like, you know what? I think I could do this. And being around other people and being more social. Because like I said, I was a very quiet person. If you
Okay.
see like in the movies that dude that sat by the trash cans eating by himself, that was me basically. But yeah, around the age of 14 when I first made Team USA, that's when it really hit for me. That's when I was like, wow, this is real cool. If I could do this, maybe I could do this for a living. But at that moment, I only thought about going to Olympics and then stopping there and getting a regular job and just living life, a normal life. But God had other plans for me to go pro, and here I am now.
Hold up. So you were considering possibly moving on from boxing. You're talking about being an Olympian. You're talking about being a part of Team USA. There was a chance that you were just going to step away at boxing at that point in time.
Yeah, surprisingly, I never really. I was scared as a kid, thinking I was gonna get too much fame and stuff like that, and then I'll get all this drama like all these people do nowadays.
Right.
So I've always said I want to live like a remote life, like middle of nowhere, just by myself with some animals, maybe grow up with a family and a farm or stuff like that. Still
Hmm.
a dream to this day.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I thought at the moment. But
All right. Well, I want to go back even further now because I was researching about yourself and your family, and it was quite the journey even getting to America for your guys' selves. And I know it's a long story, but essentially to sum it up from what I found online, that your dad obviously was a pro boxer, but he ended up coming to America, making a 204-mile swim, essentially separating you guys from Havana to Miami. There's a massive story that goes down around that. Can you open up on that a little bit? Just what was that whole experience and that journey like to have your family even come to America?
it was good. Well, I mean, I was born here, but my dad,
Right. Right.
for him was tough. He was young. Like I said, he came with five or six people. My dad's job in Cuba, to little take us a little back. My dad's job in Cuba, what he did was helping people escape Cuba. So he'll show them the route to go and stuff like that.
Okay.
Him and his brothers. So one day he just left. He was about 16, 17 years old, and he went with another five people, six including himself. And then, he jumped off this cliff because these soldiers were chasing him, and he was swimming in the water. It was dark at night, and the soldiers they were just shooting. And one of them, they died. The people that came were coming with them. But my dad was the baby of the group, and for
Mm.
their 3 day swim to get until a boat picked them up literally close to Miami, and then from there they took him into this church, this Catholic church, and the Catholic church talked to him and said, "Look, you can stay here, or we can send you to Las Vegas." And my dad, since he said Las Vegas, it sounds like a Spanish place. He ended up saying, "No, let me go there." And from there he went, and I remember he said that first day at night he saw all the lights. He was like, "Oh my goodness, this is so beautiful! I hit the jackpot." And he said when he woke up in the morning, he opened the curtains and he looked and he just saw desert. And he just saw a little piece of cacti just roll by. He said that he closed his eyes like this and started slapping himself because he thought he was dreaming. And he said his dreams was always to leave Vegas. But then he met my mother and he had us and he decided to stay. And then recently, about 5 years ago, we all moved down here to Houston.
Okay. All right. So you just talked about him. Obviously, he has quite the story and just what he's learned from who he is as a person. How has he helped make you into the person that you are today?
A lot. I always say if it wasn't for my dad, uh, I wouldn't be the boxer that I am today, or even the type of person I am of helping out others in needs. He's been a big influence in my life, even though sometimes, and I'll be honest, sometimes, as a as a kid growing up with father, sometimes you bump heads and thinking that you know everything. In reality, I haven't lived life, you know.
Right.
But if it wasn't for that man, I wouldn't be for the spot that I am or the man that I even am. He's helped me with so much in the inside and outside the ring, or how to be a better man, how to be soon to be maybe a father one day, and hope God first, hopefully, I could be half of as a man as he is.
Mm. Having him be a former pro boxer, how much has that now helped you as you've gone throughout your journey? Having someone that's been in the ring, understood the things, how much has that helped you?
A lot. It's helped me a lot. He's kind of giving me the insights. He's giving me the training wheels already on the bike before that he even had it. So,
Mm.
like when it comes to the things of nutrition, what to expect in the pros or even in the amateurs, um, when it comes to connections and knowing people and stuff like that, what the good things to do, what the not the things to do in life or in the sport, what to look in a contract and stuff like that. He's opened
Right.
up a lot of doors for me to see, especially when it comes to the nutrition part. A lot of, especially in this sport of combat sport, weight's a really big plays a big thing. So I'm glad I have him in my corner. He's giving me that insight in there.
Right. Let's go more in depth into your amateur career. You remember Team USA, bronze medal at the 2017 World Amateur Boxing Championship. Very, very prestigious career you had at the amateur ranks. When you reflect back on that time of your life, what comes to mind?
Taking happiness ungranted for because
Hmm.
sometimes, like now in life, you never realize the good times that you had it back in the day, just getting
Right.
paid for nothing and fighting. I remember I used to complain a lot when I was on the team, like, oh, man, maybe if I had a little bit more this, maybe this, or maybe I did place better at this instead of really living in the moment and thinking about it. But
Hmm.
I would say that. But it was a lot of fun. But specifically that, especially that bronze medal that you mentioned, being a baby, because Team USA, we had the youngest team uh, in that tournament, World Championships, and 3 out of the 5 that qualified for World Championships came back with medals, which was a big thing that USA hasn't done in a very long time.
Right.
So
What would you say did you enjoy more? What did you prefer, the amateur style, the way it is not only just inside the ring, but it's the overall atmosphere, the politics behind it, whatever it might be. Do you prefer the amateur or the pro ranks more?
oof, that's a hard one. I have to say amateurs.
Mm.
When people fight in the amateurs, they're fighting for passion. They're fighting for the love of the sport. Uh, the one thing that I've learned in this business game is the pros, everything's about money. A lot of people are very money hungry, and they tend to forget about the passion or the
Mm.
love for the sport and look at it more as a business, which is the downside of it. Because not a lot of people see the beauty in the sport. So I will say the amateurs, because when you're fighting, you're really fighting for passion and love. I'll say majority of them. The same thing I could say with the pros, but many of the fighters now that you see, they don't really fight for passion or for the love of the sport. It's more for just greed and money.
I like that you said that because that's a very true statement. I know I've had multiple guys on here say very similar sentiments to that as well. When you talk about for yourself personally, though, because ultimately it does come down to how you perceive it, you know what's going on around you. Has that been difficult for yourself in terms of balancing this aspect where you like fighting, it's fun when you get in the ring, but there's so many other factors that go into just getting into the ring. How have you learned to still focus and enjoy yourself and find the love for boxing amidst all the stuff that goes on in the pro ranks?
Prayer. That's the best thing I can say.
All right.
Prayer. I mean, it's a lot of decisions, especially now in the pro ranks, that it's a lot of deep prayer that I had to do because I don't even know where to begin. Um, yeah, that's just prayer. That's a simple way I could say it, but it's prayer. That's what's been helping me go through all these decision makings that I had to do, even that sometimes I don't think it's the right one, but God's like, oh no, it's the right decision to make. Because, like I said, there's been situations in my career that they've been saying, I don't want you to do this, this, and this, and that, and something that doesn't fit into my morals or something my you can even say faith,
Right.
and that's something that you could even say takes away opportunities from me in the world aspect or help me
Mm.
to become. this icon or something, whatever in this world. But as a person in my faith and moral, which we cannot do.
Can you elaborate on that? Because, like I said, so many people that are tuning into this will hear, okay, they think that, you step inside the ring, a fight gets booked, you step in the ring, or you go through training camp, then you step in a ring. There's so many other things that go on behind the stage with promoters, managers, everything. What are some of those things that you say would go against your faith, your moral standpoint, that you've had to deal with and say, you know what, I don't want that opportunity, even though it might propel me in the world scene?
Yeah, I've had in some sponsor opportunities and things like that. They said they don't want me to mention Jesus or wear the
Mm,
clothing or anything that says Jesus, which is a big hurt thing because I never thought I'll see that as growing up. You always see it as a kid sometimes, or you hear it from somebody, but you never truly believe it until you
right.
really live it. So when I first heard that, I was like, "What the heck?" Uh, it kind of like baffled me that, or they just say that you don't want you to do some certain type of thing, and sometimes you just feel like you're a puppet. They're just controlling
Mm,
you and telling you to do this and do that, say this and say that. When reality this is like you don't feel like a person. You just feel like someone's telling you what to do. You're
mhm,
just their puppet. Like you say, which is the
right.
hard part. With anything, and it doesn't even have to be sports. Like I say, you can even say music career or music industry or the acting industry.
Right.
They're all the same thing in the end of the day.
All right, so I have to ask you this follow-up question because as someone that's a fellow believer that wants to give my life entirely to Jesus, that would be something that for me, I think obviously for yourself, it's an easy no. But so many
Hmm.
people out there that are lukewarm Christians would say, hey, they're offering me how much money? All right, I won't talk about Jesus. I won't do it. It is what it is. I believe in Jesus, but I'm not going to fully surrender myself. I'll let some moral standard slip because it's money, right? And so it makes a lot of sense from a worldly perspective. Obviously, you and I know it differently. What's giving
Yeah.
you the strength to say, you know what? I get it. It's a nice amount of money, but I'm not going to take it. I'm going to turn it down and move on from it. How have you had the strength and the confidence and the courage and the faith too to say, you know what, I'm going to stay true to God's word?
Because I know there's something greater than, and that's Jesus
Mm,
Christ. When I die out of here, it could be today, tomorrow, or the future. I don't know, 5 years.
right.
But I know, they say that the life that we're living on here is temporary. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, especially the kids at the gym here in Houston that I own, I can be the most richest man, but be the most unhappiest person. And
Right.
I could be the most poorest person in the world, but be the happiest because I have Christ. For me, I've never cared about the money. A lot of the kids in the gym, they tell me, they're like, "Man, how come you don't have a Bugatti or a Porsche or something, or some nice clothes?" So usually I just have. So I still wear some PE clothes that I have from eighth grade. Think about it, to go training, and but I've never been a materialistic person and stuff. That
Mm-hmm.
stuff is gonna fade away in this world. But my
Mm.
only goal that I have in life is to make it up there in heaven in Christ with you as well. With my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ.
Amen, man. All right, so let's hop into your pro career. You've only been this for now for about 4 years now. 2021,
Mhm.
you turned pro. That first calendar year, now obviously drifts into 2022, but when you look at 365-day calendar year, you fight 7 times that first year. What
Yeah.
was that year like?
Chaotic. I remember there was like I think in 2 months I did like 4 fights.
Hmm.
Um, it was a lot with the weight, but it was fun at the same time. It kind of reminded me of amateur, so I was still kind of used to it the first year.
Right.
So it wasn't really too big. Where it really hit was that second year because I started getting used to relaxing a day, eating as much as
Mm.
I want, and then fighting the next day compared to the amateurs. Even if you got to buy, you have to lose the weight for the next day of the show.
Right.
Um, but no, yeah,
Would you say that transition was easy for yourself? I mean, stylistically, obviously, it's much different stylistically between amateur and pro ranks. Would you say it suited yourself better to be in the pro ranks? Was it difficult for the transition, or how would you say in terms of your style did it fit?
it was difficult. Very, very, very difficult. I remember when I was like a year before going pro, I was like, "Oh man, I don't understand why these people struggle so much. You just have to slow your feet down. Just stand right in front of the dude and
Hmm.
punch him." Oh no, how I was wrong. I remember going in, for even first couple of 5 pro fights. I'm still fighting amateur style, going in and out, moving a lot, doing it like just say a sprint, not a marathon. Trying to throw a lot of punches, moving out, gassing myself out. And so it was very hard. It was very hard for me to slow my feet down.
Mm.
Um, because I'm such a technical fighter, so I move a lot and stuff. But I'm grateful now. Even now, they're trying to slow my feet down just a little bit more. But no, it was very hard. I used to think it was easy, but it's very, very hard. I think you did one of my good stablements and friends that was on the team with SchuZ Carrington, Bruce
Right. Yep.
Carrington. SchuZ got a great style for the pros, even when he was an amateur and pro, so he had easier transitioning than me.
Right.
But yeah, but he is fighting this weekend as well too, so I'm excited to see.
All right. If I were to have known you all the way back at that point in time, I would have said, hey, Freddie, you're going to be a guy that in 2025 was now going to be ranked in the top 15 as a contender. You're no longer just a prospect. Obviously, in some people's terms, you could consider that a prospect, but still, you're a legitimate contender now for a world championship. What would your reaction have been?
I wouldn't believe you. I'm like,
Mm.
oh, dude, pro me? Oh no, you're funny. That's exact words what I would have said. You're a funny dude for thinking I'm going pro. Um, but I would have been in shock, if you told me that a couple years ago and where I am now.
Mm. What was it about that? Did you have the confidence that you'd be this good, or was it more so just saying, you know what, I don't know if those are even my aspirations. I don't know if I really want to be on that stage.
No, I just never thought I would really make it.
Mm.
My whole life, I have really bad flat feet, so I've always been told that I won't make it far in boxing from doctors and stuff like that. Well, big laugh from God to their face there, right? But no, I've always been told I won't make it far in boxing because I was a very skinny kid growing up. I'm still skinny now, but very skinny growing up. They're like, this skinny guy, he'll never be nobody in life. Even the head coach, were the reasons why I went pro. This is the first I'm saying it to
Okay.
anybody in an interview, by the way. The head coach at that time, uh, for Team USA, he told me, he's like, we will want you to stay for 2024 Olympics.
Mm.
Uh, you're gonna fight here. We'll let you live on the Olympic Training Center. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is going good. Okay, I might do it. Until he says, like, yeah, you have amateur style. You'll never make it as a pro, and
Mm.
that destroyed me. It flipped a switch, as you could say, inside my heart, saying, okay, I have to prove him wrong. Because I grew up my whole life, people telling me I'll never make it into this sport. I used to
Mm.
get beat up a lot as a kid, and I was always quiet and scared. But I'm happy that I'm proving a lot of people wrong and proving myself wrong because I used to doubt myself a lot growing up and stuff. So I'm glad I could prove them wrong and myself, my younger self, that look where I am with hard work and dedication. Cliche to say,
Mm.
but it's true. With that hard work, dedication, and having Christ in your corner, you can accomplish anything in life.
Amen. Well, I have to follow up on that point because you're talking about Team USA coach. He's somebody that obviously I know USA tries to get some guys to stay in the amateur ranks for extended periods of time. That sounds like what he was trying to do for you there.
Hmm.
When you heard those words though, and he said, you know what, I don't think you can go pro. What exactly flipped at that point in time? Did you say, okay, you know what, there's no shot I'm staying amateur, I'm going pro? Did it take some time in prayer? Just how did you respond to that in the next, couple of days, weeks, whatever it was after the fact?
I remember I did do a prayer, but it was more like a prayer like, God, yeah, just help me because I was still away from Christ.
Okay.
Uh, but I remember I sat down and I talked to my dad and to my assistant coach now, Kate Croma at the time. It's just like, man, I just don't like how he said it. Like I said, people told me so much. They're writing me off as this skinny kid that'll never be anybody.
Hmm.
Um, but I always said I've always wanted to be a somebody. I don't care about money. I don't care about fame or anything like that. I just want to prove to myself that I've done that and I've been there. I always
Hmm.
tell the kids too, I never want to live a life with regrets, buts, ifs, or maybes. I just want to do it. If there's something you want to do in life, just do it. What's
Right.
the worst that can happen, right? There could be a no. Maybe if there's some girl you're asking out, it could be a no. Or you tried out for a football team, baseball team, they can say no, not make it. But it's just life. We only got one life here. So
Hmm.
enjoy it. Don't enjoy it like in a crazy way in the world aspect, but
Right.
the
Yep.
grass aspect.
Absolutely, man. All right. So before we talk about what you want to accomplish going forward, One Way is your nickname. What's the meaning behind that? How'd you get the nickname One Way?
Yeah. So I don't know if you ever seen that Christian movie, Woodlawn, the football one.
It sounds a little bit from. I'm not sure exactly which one it is, but it sounds. I know I've seen a couple Christian football movies before.
Yeah, so there's a Christian movie called One Way. I'm not One Way. Called Woodlawn, and the football. It's about not a Christian football team. The coach is not even Christian, but in the end, they all become Christian. But I liked it. One of the pastors in that movie, he said, "There's only one way to Christ," and
Mm,
and that stuck with me ever since I've seen it. And he said, "It's true. There's only one way to Christ." John 14:6. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the
mhm.
Father except through me." And I liked it so much, and I said, "You know what? That's my purpose in life, to serve God and to show people that there's only one way to Christ." And with the background people saying that this kid will never make it, maybe it could show people like how God used me, somebody who has really bad flat feet or wasn't as good, to become somebody in life, and that anything's possible through him.
Amen. All right. Well, they just said a little bit ago, you're now ranked number 14 in the IBF. You are a legitimate world championship contender at this point in time. And there's a lot of guys. 154, in my personal opinion, is the best weight class in all boxing. So obviously, your goal is world champion, but there's a lot of fights available that could bring in a lot of money, a lot of great opportunities in front of you. I could go on and list about 10, 15 guys I think are legitimate contenders right now in that weight class, but who are some guys you're eyeing? Is there anybody you look at and say, you know what, that guy, and that guy are guys I'd like to fight?
I always say I want to fight all of them, right?
All right.
Because my only job in boxing is to fight. I always say this. I believe more in the old method back in the day. Uh, Fight for name, fight for legacy, the best versus the best.
Mhm.
At the moment, I do want to fight Brian Mendoza a lot. Even Xander that he's fighting this weekend. Xander was a youth while I was a elite. He was
Right.
around 16, 17 while I was in the adult thing. I do want to fight Xander really bad. Even Erickson Lubin, even I believe he's a Kazakhstan dude or Uzbekistan dude that they said that he might be scheduled to fight. He's the number one in the IBF.
Let me pull it up real quickly. Number one. Oh, well, Erickson Lubin's number one IBF, isn't he? Because he just got the mandatory for Bakram.
Oh, he was for then the guy's the champion of the 1W the IBF, isn't he?
Yeah, Bakram Murtavaliev, he's the champion right
Yeah,
now. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
him, Tim Zoo.
Right.
Me and Fedora are stablemates because we have the same promoter. But I would love to fight that dude. I've been asking for that fight forever. Will my promoter make it? I don't know.
Right.
That's a decision he will make, or I just gotta force it out with interviews and stuff like that all the time. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, Brian Mendoza, I think would be a great fight because he knocked out Fandora.
Right.
So he's the number one on my hit list. Obviously, all the rest of them, uh, Lubin, even Tejas, that Cuban one coming up, and the WBA. Like I said, Xander, all of them. Even the one that Xander's fighting that I never heard of. But
Or Garcia
I would love to
Perez.
fight him as well. Yeah, I've never heard that dude until he started fighting him. But I really wanted that fight to happen though between Fedora and Xander. Though I thought
Yeah.
that would have been a good fight to watch for sure. But
So I have to ask you two quick questions just about the overall state of 154. Xander's fighting this weekend. I'm assuming by what you just said, you kind of expect him to win that fight then?
yeah, 100%. Xander's a good fighter.
Yeah.
I I've never seen the other dude fight before,
Okay.
so maybe he'll get some tricks up his sleeve. I don't know,
So you
but
didn't, so you
as
didn't see
right
the
now,
Charles Conwell fight then?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
Was it a good fight?
I was surprised. I had Conwell winning that fight, but I mean, not
Mm,
winning it, but beforehand, I thought he was going to win it. But I mean, Conwell had a couple good rounds earlier on. But I mean, he did
mm.
dominate Conwell from about round 4, I think it was, through the rest of it. So he would impress me a lot in that fight.
Is he more of a pressure fighter, boxer? Has to be more
Yeah, he
pressure
pretty much
type, right?
pressure. Yeah, pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm biased.
Right.
Xander, he's
Yeah, I
a
got
good friend
Xander
of
in that
mine
one too.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah, Xander's a good friend of mine from the amateurs. I've known him since he was a kid as well. So we're both on the team USA together. Of course, like I said, he was youth. I was elite. So I've
Right.
known him forever. And we have the same nutritionist as well.
Okay.
So I'm very biased when it comes to Xander. But I think it should be an easy win. But again, styles make fights. So
Yep.
one thing can work with one fighter can't work with another fighter.
True that. And the reason I asked you that question is that obviously people wanted Xander Zayas to go out there and fight Fandora. Obviously, he make it and whatnot. But I think the expectation is that those two guys would then unify pretty quickly. I think that's kind of the rumors going on right now if Xander wins that fight. So hypothetically, let's say that gets done. Fandora, Zayas, unified championship. Who's winning that fight?
I think Xander.
Okay.
I think Xander will pull it off. I think it will be a split decision. I don't think anything unanimous or anybody knocking each other out.
Okay.
Yeah. If Xander could throw overhands with Fundora, then he'll catch him.
Okay. I like that. And on top of that, I have to go about Tim Tszyu. I personally thought he rushed the comeback way too quickly. When you talk about taking the brutal beating with Fundora last year, and then having obviously the Bachram beatdown as well, he fought one tune-up fight, which was against a nobody, and then he goes right back to Fundora. I feel like it was too rushed there, but you saw what happened in the ring. If probably on Saturday wasn't the best showing,
Hmm.
where does he go from here? Do you think?
They just go back to the drawing boards. I think he just has to take a step back to see if he still wants to do 54 or go up to 60. But I think 54 is a good weight for him because he's at a good height. I
Yeah.
think he'll have to fight another person like Joey Spencer
Yeah.
to boost his confidence up a little bit more. I think like you said, perfect how you said it. I think he was rushed. I think maybe
Mhm.
they should have done two or three fights. He's
Yeah.
young still. There's no rush. Just to boost his confidence up because confidence is a very big thing in boxing, right? You might think you're ready, but your team definitely has to let you know if you're ready or not because they're the ones watching you on the outside. There's
Hmm.
something that you might think you're doing great, but then on the outside you're doing pretty bad.
Right.
Um, but I think he should go back, take another two or three fights just to get his confidence back up again and stuff like that, and take another world title fight like that again.
All right. Now, I said you're ranked IBF currently, but you listed some of the guys that's not in the IBF ranking. So when you look at your game plan, talking to your promotion with Samson, different guys like that, is the game plan to work your way up IBF? Does it not matter to yourself, or what's kind of the game plan you're looking at for yourself right now?
I want to get in every organization. I want to go to
Okay.
WBA, WBC, WBO. I was at the WBO for a while.
Right.
First last year, first I was like six, then I went eight, then back up to six again. But my plan is, or my team plan is to get ranking in all of them to give more of a chance and more of an opportunity. Why focus just on one organization when you can work with all,
Right.
right?
Right.
And like I said, what I want to do in life is fight the best. This
Okay.
is only the legacy fights. What's the point of fighting? You could say the word ducking it down and fighting somebody that's not on your skill level yet. But like I said, man, this people got too much of the Mayweather effect. Everyone wants to keep their O and not fight, and then money talks. I guess at the end of the day, people just care about money, money, money. So,
Mhm.
which is not a bad thing. Obviously, I would love to get paid for what I be getting a little beating on for the show for the fans. But at the same time, I think legacy fights are the ones that people fans truly want to see. Because me, if I take myself as a boxer and put myself as a fan, like this weekend with Pacquiao and Barrios,
Right.
I took myself out as a fighter and put myself as a boxing fan, and that's something I wanted to see. Should Pacquiao have been there after a 4 year layoff? No, obviously I'm mad because he got into the rankings.
Yeah.
But as a fan, I was like, oh, I get to see Pacquiao again.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
All right. So in terms of your game plan, you're still young. You're 26 years old right now. Some of these guys we're looking at right now are in the 30s. Like there's a lot of different age gap at 134. But when you talk about your next game plan, do you plan on getting back in the ring this year, or what can we expect for you in the next 6 months to a year, or whatever it might look like?
Hopefully, I may fight another two more times this year. It's very hard for me to get fights.
Yeah.
Either people ask for some ridiculous amount of money that they know neither of us are gonna nowhere near making yet, uh, or they just come up with a lot of excuses when it comes to like weight or things like that.
Hmm.
But hopefully, two more times this year, it'll be great. I'll be happy. I know last year was very a big inactivity year for me. For I only fought basically one time last year,
Yeah.
which sucks. It's not like I'm making crazy millions yet. Um, so I would love to be more active. For I'm no longer a prospect
Right.
since last year, but now going with these tough guys now is tough decisions to make and stuff. But I'll fight anybody if
Okay.
it's right with the rankings and stuff to give me a better opportunity. I'll fight anybody because that's what it is about his sport, going against the best.
Absolutely. So you said Brian Mendoza. He's coming off a good win. I think it was 2 or 3 weekends ago now. When you
Mm.
talk about, I shouldn't say good win, but he came off of a win. I should say clarify that. But when you look at him, is that a fight you guys have discussed? Has that been on the table yet, or where do we look like it, or is that just something you're just throwing out there because you just want to make it happen?
No, it's been out there. My promoter sent him like two contracts already.
Okay,
They've turned it down. I love Brian. He's a good friend of mine as well. We sparred a bunch of times when he was with Salas, Ismail
gotcha.
Salas at the time when he was training with him. We sparred a bunch of times and stuff. So it's a fight that I really want. Like I said, he has a good resume under his name. He fought against Fondora, the current world champion now. He knocked him out. So
Hmm.
again, uh, I think that'll be a good fight to prove to boxing fans as well. Like, okay, this dude can hang in there, because Brian Mendoza is not a nobody. He has a good resume on him. He's a skillful fighter. He has a pop to him, obviously, with the Fedor fight.
Yeah.
So he'll be a great fight. I think. I say it's a step up fight to prove to
Mhm.
people like this guy is somebody.
When you talk about your game plan in terms of becoming a world champion, is that something that you see yourself becoming that in a year? 'Cause I think obviously, like I said, 154 is very, very difficult. If Bud moves on, obviously that opens up a lot of stuff, but it's a deep depth or the weight class right there. Do you see yourself becoming world champion 1 year from now, year and a half, 2 years? What's the game plan in terms of when you think that's a realistic chance for yourself?
I always say a year and a half to two
Okay,
for sure.
makes
And I'm
sense.
calling out, I will become a world champion. But the biggest goal is to be undisputed. That would be
Mhm.
great. I'm tall and slim for the weight class, so I got a big advantage.
Yep.
Let me get undisputed before I go up. Hopefully later on in my career to 160.
All right. So the plan long term would be go to 160 down the line then?
I feel like towards the end of my career of boxing, I'll probably finish off at 168.
Okay, 168. Wow.
Yeah,
Now, would that probably be not till I'm assuming probably mid, like 32, 33 years old or something, then I'm guessing?
probably be 33, 34.
Gotcha.
I've always said I want to retire at 33. Young fighter still, but
Right.
realistically, I'll probably end up pulling some Pacquiao stuff and coming back as Tyson.
So you're one of those guys that if some offer comes around that you just can't turn down, you're in your 40s or something, you might come back out?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the love for the sport never goes. When I
Right.
get like 3 days off after a fight and stuff, I'm already itching to go back to the gym. It's
All right.
something already part of my life that I've been used to, so it's kind of hard to like get away from it. It's my
Right.
drug. I always tell people boxing's my drug. It's my toxic relationship that sometimes I need to get away from.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Freddie, I've got one final question for you. It's the question I wrap up every single interview with, and that's talking about your legacy. One day, you will eventually move on from boxing. I know you just said you might come back after that moment, but one day you'll put down the gloves for real. When that day happens, what do you want to be remembered for what you have accomplished both inside and outside of that ring?
I want to be known as a fighter that was a good fighter, but more importantly, bringing people closer to Christ and
Mm,
just helping people who are in need. My dream's always been to help people who have been homeless or kids that have cancer and stuff like that. So if God ever blessed me with that amount of money, I'll definitely go directly there. Uh,
mm.
because there's a lot more people that need more help than just me. He's already blessed me a lot. I got a roof under my head. Uh, you know, I have a good business going at the same time. So um, if that would be the thing. If I put up the gloves, it'll be more of stuff like that, organizations to help kids and people who are in need.
I love that. Well, Freddie, I appreciate you for taking time to come on today, man. It's been a blessing and honor having you on here, and I cannot wait to see what God's got in store for you, man.
No, thank you for the opportunity. It was a very fun one. Thank you.
Of course, you're always welcome on, man. God bless.
God bless you, brother. Thank you.
Sounds good. See you, man.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys all for tuning into the interview. I will have that clipped up, edited out, and then posted on my YouTube channel later on tonight after I finish up today's show. I'm going to go on a short break, and then we'll get into the rest of the show right after that. I'll see you guys in about 3 to 4 minutes. God bless you guys. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SchuZ Show. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal Thursday. So, what I'm going to do to wrap up today's show, and actually before I get into that, if you guys have any comments, chats, or topics you guys want me to address in this portion of the show, leave it in the chat and I'll make sure to address as we go throughout this. Also, obviously, the X version of today's show is not available once again. Hopefully, those issues get figured out in the near future. However, the YouTube show seems to be working all right. So, hopefully, this all gets settled and we're back to both X and the show happening on YouTube. But for now, at least YouTube is holding up for now. So, what I'll be getting into now is a fight announcement. Also, I'll be getting into Zurdo being out for the remainder of the year, Riyadh Season and their uninterest in the Oleksandr Usyk fight, and then I'll wrap today's show getting into the new legislation that's been in regards to the Ally Act. Now, that's going to be a more extensive segment, so make sure to stay tuned for that one as I wrap today's show with that. First one's this. Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez is out for the remainder of the year due to shoulder surgery. All right. We all saw the update. I discussed it when it happened a couple of days ago when it became official. But then I started thinking about this. When we look at the cruiserweight division, there's only one fight that makes sense. There are two guys that are significantly better than everybody else at cruiserweight. That's Zurdo Ramirez and Jai Opetaia. And in my eyes, I believe there's actually three tiers. Jai Opetaia is the first tier, and there's a pretty sizable gap between him and Zurdo Ramirez. And then after Zurdo Ramirez, you have this next gap of everybody else. Now, this puts Jai Opetaia in a tough predicament. He wants to become undisputed, and let me make this clear. If he's able to make it happen, he would become undisputed at cruiserweight. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. But here's the problem. The fight with Zurdo just seems to not be able to get made. And now we have a massive issue with Zurdo Ramirez being out extensive time with his shoulder surgery. And likely he's going to want a tune-up fight before that even happens. So if you're Jai Opetaia, you have to sit back with your team right now and realize Zurdo Ramirez, that fight is not going to happen for the foreseeable future. What do you do next? In my opinion, stop messing around with the cruiserweight division and move up to heavyweight. Now's the time. You are 30 years old. Jai Opetaia is the best cruiserweight in the world, and in my personal opinion, he's already a top 15 type pound-for-pound type of fighter. The only reason he's not top 10 yet is because simply his resume is not on par yet. But that does not mean he won't have it. Jai Opetaia has every possibility to be a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. He needs to move to heavyweight to accomplish that, though. And when you look at Jai Opetaia, there are plentiful amounts of big fights with money, accolades, so on and so forth to make it heavyweight. Stop wasting time at cruiserweight. In my eyes, we already know you go out there and destroy Zurdo Ramirez. That's my personal opinion. And either way, we're not going to see that fight for the foreseeable future. So get ready to move to heavyweight and go make it happen. The pinnacle we could get is the Oleksandr Usyk fight. That, from a stylistic standpoint, would be an extremely intriguing fight to go out there and watch. But even if Usyk's not available, how about a guy like Joseph Parker, even a Marlon Bakoli, or any one of those other guys at heavyweight right now? Go get your name in the mixer there. I think that Jai Opetaia would be more than ready to go out there and fight at heavyweight. So go make the move happen. There's no point wasting his time any longer at cruiserweight. It's a dead division right now that's only holding him back with no fights possibly getting made that make sense for him. That won't be the case at heavyweight. So if you're Jai Opetaia, you are 30 years old now, make the move to heavyweight and go accomplish what you're capable of accomplishing at the heavyweight division. There's no reason to keep wasting time at cruiserweight any longer. Lewis Crocker will rematch Paddy Donovan for the vacant IBF welterweight world title on September 13th in Windsor Park Stadium in Belfast. This was rumored that it was always going to happen around this time, and now it's coming to fruition. This rematch is going to be huge. It's now for a world championship, the one that Boots Ennis vacated, and now it's going to be a massive fight. A domestic fight, huge. This is going to be a massive fight. I'm glad it got done. It's at a stadium fight. It will be an incredible atmosphere. The first atmosphere was insane. This one's going to be even crazier, especially because of the controversy that was involved there. Next up, Riyadh Season and Sela are not interested in making a fight between Oleksandr Usyk and Joseph Parker. The ring has learned. Dang it. It's unfortunate. There's no fight at heavyweight better than Oleksandr Usyk for Joseph Parker. And I made that statement very clear recently. And now we're put into a position where, well, this fight's not going to happen on a Riyadh Season's watch. Unfortunate. But I do understand it. When we're talking about from a financial standpoint, that fight does not attract a lot of people. If you love boxing and you know who Joseph Parker is, and you obviously everybody knows who Usyk is at this point, then you understand the value of this fight. It's an incredible fight between the two best heavyweights you can make a case for in boxing right now. However, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know who Joseph Parker is outside of people that know boxing. It's unfortunate, but this is a business. And if people do not know who Joseph Parker is very well, then it's going to cause a lot of issues in terms of making this a high fight in terms of promotion abilities and so on and so forth. So I get why the Ring magazine is not making it happen. The only thing that makes it unfortunate is I don't think we're going to see Usyk and Joseph Parker happen then. Because with the WBO, I don't think that fight's going to get made. It could lead to Usyk vacating that belt this time around. Usyk will defend his belt for his final time against somebody else with the 3 other belts. And then we could either see maybe Usyk comes back and does a unification for Undisputed once again with Joseph Parker, whoever wins that fight. But a lot of moving pieces there. Unfortunate to see it, but I do understand it. I get why Riyadh doesn't want to go after it. However, it is the best fight, and Turkey does say he always wants to make the best fights happen. So I would love to see that fight happen. If it doesn't, we can't do anything about that, unfortunately. Let's move on now. This is going to be a little bit more lengthy segment, but I'm going to give you guys all the different views here. Because there has been a lot of controversy in regards to the Ollie Act that has been going down. And I mentioned this on yesterday's show. I did not want to comment on it yesterday. The reason behind that is I had to spend time actually reflecting on what the new rule is, the new law that's going to be put into place potentially, or at least it's trying to be brought into place. I want to know exactly the ramifications of it, the pros, the cons, everything. And I didn't have enough time to comment and research that yesterday. Today, I am prepared to give you guys a full story of the Ollie Act, what all happens, what the new changes are going to be to it, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to give you guys now is an in-depth preview and update as to what the new Ollie Act changes actually entails so that there can stop being so much misinformation being pushed outside of my people. Because right now, I look through Instagram, I look through X, and all I feel like I see is so many people making biased statements and different things that they don't have the facts about what this Ollie Act actually is. So I'm going to give you guys the facts. You guys can decide whether or not this is good or not. Let's go back in time, though. What is the Ollie Act? Where did the Ollie Act come from? Well, the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act was put into place in 2000. This was Congress's response to an industry riddled with exploitation and chaos at the time. Promoters often were serving both as promoters and managers. It caused a massive conflict of interest right there. Sanctioning bodies were manipulating rankings for financial and political favors. Fighters had not a lot of transparency about their contracts, their earnings, rankings. There was no national oversight. It was really just a chaotic place in boxing beforehand. Some might say it made it better for boxing as a whole, but it was chaotic behind the scenes. So the Ollie Act came into place in 2000. What it did was it protected the fighters' rights. It separated promoters from managers. It required full disclosure of contracts, and it empowered state commissions. Now those state commissions have become much more prevalent in modern society in terms of boxing. We all know that the state commissions have a lot more power. That is why. It was not necessarily a reset, but was focusing on fairness and the welfare of fighters. All right, we fast forward to the calendar year of 2025. At this point in time, these rumors have now been coming out in regards to politicians in America trying to make changes to the Ollie Act. What is this? This is new proposed legislation backed by Representatives Brian Jack and Sharice Davides. Builds on the original modernizing fire protection and restructuring oversight. It's not removing everything about it. This is only simply going to be a revival they're considering it, meaning they're going to make changes to it, but the Ollie Act will still be in place. The structural overhaul. This is what's going to be put into place now. Unified boxing organizations, also known as UBOs moving forward, as I discussed this. Independent sanctioning entities that offer alternative title paths, rankings, and fight opportunities. This will run alongside the WBC, WBA, IBF, and WBO, the 4 major sanctioning bodies in America, in the world. There will be no sanctioning fees for titles or rankings within UBOs. What does that mean? All right, to give you guys a little bit more clarity in this situation. Oftentimes, fighters have to pay certain fees when they're going through a certain organizing body. Now, there's a lot of misinformation in regards to this. I know both Mike Coppinger and I forget one of the commissioning bodies was going back and forth on X yesterday. So just to put it out there, yes, essentially there are fees that fighters must pay when they are going to be sanctioned by a certain sanctioning body. That's a fact. When they go to fight, those sanctioning fees are placed into it. Not necessarily that they're paying money to be ranked, but once you become world champion, you do have to pay different fees in that regard. Let's go to the other aspect, the fighter welfare enhancements. This proposed legislation is now putting in place a minimum fight pay of $150 per scheduled round. Also, injury coverage, at least $25,000 for fight-related medical needs. Free annual medical exams, including neurological testing and MRIs. Anti-doping and trauma-informed medical teams ringside. Also, there's going to be insurance for training injuries. If these are being read to you and you start to think, isn't this very similar to what Dana White and the UFC does? Spot on. This entire movement is going to infiltrate the essentially the entire infrastructure, what the UFC and Dana White has built, is going to be pushed into what is happening right now in the new looking boxing scene. Obviously, you can make your opinion on whether or not that's right, but that is unfortunate. That's what's going to be put into place. Let's go to the next standpoint. Training access provisions. There will be free access to licensed gyms and training facilities for all active pro boxers. Levels the playing field for fighters without deep promotional funding. It cuts down on personal expenses for training camps, and it supports health, readiness, and compliance with new annual exam rules. Once again, very similar to what the UFC has done under Dana White's supervision. What the UFC does is they have different performance centers placed around the world. Those centers are given full access to each and every single member of the UFC. If you're part of the UFC, whether world champion or just got signed, you have full access to all the different facilities. And the one in Las Vegas, for example, is one of the most world-renowned facilities in all the world. Those are the types of things that now boxers will have access to if this law gets placed. Oversight and transparency. UBO is regulated by state athletic commissions, clear fighter contracts and pay structure, disclosure, and matchmaking and rankings publicly available. Let's go to the upsides about this. If this new rule does come into play, the upside is this. It's a fighter first shift. It's better pay, healthcare, and support systems. On top of that, gym access demonstrates prep, helps journeymen and regional warriors stay fight ready year around. UBOs challenge legacy monopolies. This could create more meaningful and competitive fight paths for different fighters, and it also implements the UFC style structure, could streamline scheduling and fan engagement by having more narrative control like the UFC does have. Now, the concerns about this. Legacy erosion. This parallel belts may muddy history and prestige. When we look at comparing former history, the champions, we already have the big debate between 3-belt champions and now the 4-belt era. Now we're adding in this whole new curveball. What does that bring into play? Well, historically, now a lot more things are different. This would be an entirely new era of boxing as opposed to what it was previously. Power centralized risk. If major backers like TKO control UBOs, they might mimic UFC's closed ecosystem, meaning this does open the door potentially for a monopoly system to be put into place in boxing. When you think of MMA, it is a sport where there are multiple different promotion companies. However, the UFC is, by some people that don't know MMA very well, would think of the UFC, aka the MMA. They don't know anything different. UFC is far and away a monopoly system in MMA. Now, not entirely by definition, because there are other MMA promotions, but the UFC is far and away the most dominant, most successful, most viewership, so on and so forth. Only one really making a massive profit is the UFC. Promoter tension. Traditional players may resist new regulations or shift matchmaking to their benefit, meaning guys like Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren and Al Heyman and Bob Arum, so on and so forth, Oscar De La Hoya. These different promoters are now going to have to realize that if this gets put into place, the boxing scene drastically shifts. And if that is done, they're going to have to find ways to be creative and still keep their business afloat if they choose to stay in the business. That's why they're going to have a lot of pushback, because this new system is completely going to make a new era of boxing. On top of that, oversight gaps. State commissions may struggle to enforce standards evenly. Those are the concerns. So what does this mean for boxing's future? The bill could radically reshape the fight game. For boxers, more financial medical security, especially for those outside of title contention. Let me add to this real quickly. In boxing, I'm not sure there is another sport that compares to the pay gap. And what do I mean by that? I mean at the top of the game, you're talking world champions like Canelo Alvarez, like a Terrence Bud Crawford, and Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, the top of the food chain when it comes to boxing, Naoya Inoue. Those guys are some of the wealthiest athletes in all the world. You look at the sport track list last year in terms of the top earning athletes in 2024. 4 of the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, were boxers, and actually 4 of the top 6. On top of that, there were about 3 or 4 other guys within the top 30 or 45. Then there was nobody else. The reasoning behind this is that boxing creates an infrastructure where the top of the food chain gets paid exorbitantly high amounts of money. But then you go down to these other guys. Even guys that are currently ranked do not make a lot of money and are having to work multiple jobs. And you go further than that. Guys that are working themselves up as prospects that are not signed to major promotional companies, they're having to work multiple jobs to even step foot and go fight in boxing. That is a problem. And what this means is that there could be at least more financial medical security for them, meaning that at least there's a smaller threshold, a floor that boxers will now get paid with this new rule getting put into place. For promoters, opportunity to innovate or a threat to long-held power structures, meaning this era of promoters, all the guys I listed a little bit ago, now there's going to be a time and era where they're going to have to make changes. What do those changes look like? We will see, but they will have to be put in a position to make different changes in boxing and how they run their businesses. For fans, there will be cleaner narratives, bigger fights, and less ducking or deeper belt confusion. That's the most likely thing. If the other different sanctioning bodies do continue to move on with what they're doing, you're going to have this confusing situation where you have those 4 world championships on top of whatever this new organization body is going to do. That could cause a lot of issues. However, if, hypothetically speaking, every boxer gets involved with this new game plan, you will be setting yourself up for a position where no more ducking can happen. Every guy's gunning for the top guy. Big fights are happening. Rankings are accurate. So on and so forth. Very similar to how the UFC does it. Whether you like it or not, this is the play structure that's going to be put into place right now. So the bottom line, this is not just going to be reform. It's a strategic pivot that could echo across the sports ecosystem. Whether it becomes boxing's renaissance or its reinventation depends on execution and who ends up pulling the strings. Obviously, based upon everything I've told you guys, there seems to be a large, almost a hand over this by Dana White. Dana White and Turkey's relationship is very well known. Dana White's going to be a part of boxing. Turkey's given Dana White the keys to host and promote the biggest boxing fight of this decade. Dana White has obviously got his hands put in place with what this new legislation is going to look like. He will be the guy running it. That is all I'm going to give you guys. These are the facts about what's actually happening, what the rules implement. Whether you are on the side of that or not liking it, that's to make your own personal opinion. Right now, it is what it is. We cannot stop what's going to happen. We might as well just sit back and witness what's going to occur. But let me know your thoughts. Is this something that makes sense for boxing? Is it for the better or the worst? What's your thoughts on the Ali Act? Let me know in the comments. But right now, all I know is this. We can only sit back and wait and see what's actually going to happen over the duration of the next 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 years. But there's going to be massive changes happening in boxing. With that being said, I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for tuning in today's show. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of you guys Thursday, and I will see you guys back live tomorrow. I'm working on possibly getting somebody lined up to come on the show tomorrow. There was somebody scheduled, but if not, I'll just come on live, give you guys fight previews of the fights going down this weekend, give you guys some boxing news updates, and then I'll hop up on out of there to wrap up the week tomorrow on tomorrow's show. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a remarkable rest of you guys Thursday. I will see you guys back live tomorrow on Friday. May God bless you guys all, and I will see you guys tomorrow. SchuZ is out.